Okay, we're live.
Well, look at here, man. It's about 8:15. A little bit later than that. Just want to say thank you guys for popping in early and being around for this special episode of Teague's Take. Man, I'm really excited about this one because uh, we don't really talk about special teams that much. We've done it once before with a punter from University of Alabama, Mike Bernier. But we got a very special guest on today, so you guys need to make sure you tune into this because we're going to hit in on a couple things. NFL kickoffs. What does that mean? What are the intricacies of kicking the ball off? And then I see you, Coach Sean Riley. I know you got a special place for that. And then also about uh, field goals and PATs, how they differ and different things of that nature. So I'm really excited about this because as a head coach, I think I know a lot about kicking, but it's great to have specialists that come in and will give you and me all of the scoop about that. So the order we're going to go in, we're going to talk about some NCAA settlement stuff first. Then we're going to talk about kickoffs, and then we'll get into film of Graham Nicholson, the transfer from Miami of Ohio to the University of Alabama, and field goals. All right. So that's what's going to look like. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, because these keep coming. You can always find us here, JT and I. Love to interact with everyone. So uh, we're looking forward to this happening. All right. So I want to go ahead and get into my run out. All right. So college sports were taken by storm last week because of the NCAA and the power conferences. They voted to approve a settlement for 3 antitrust lawsuits. This is going to change the collegiate landscape because universities and conferences are allowed to directly pay players through revenue sharing for the first time in history. If the settlement is approved, there will be no more amateur athletics in college sports. They will essentially just become pros. So, without getting into all the legal jargon, there's two important things about this settlement. First, roughly about $2.8 billion will be paid to current and former athletes dating back to 2016. This is for the lost potential of NIL revenue. And number two, the framework where conferences and schools will be able to pay student athletes directly. There are two different ways college athletes will be able to make money. That's NIL and revenue sharing. So, for reaction, I want to go ahead and bring in our co-host, James Teague, and our special guest, Anthony Giuliano. Let's
Well,
go ahead.
before that, you forgot something, so I'm going to do that first.
Okay. So, do you think our post show producer will be able to flip that around? Does he have those kind of skills? Do we need to put him on notice on spot right now to see if he can figure out how to splice the
um,
run out to happen after the introduction
yeah, I
or
mean
what?
he could flip it. Um, I'm sure he's got those skills.
I'll check him. I'll check him. We'll see what it is. So I apologize for that. I've been stuffing my face over here with this no name chicken. Since they're not a sponsor, Ross, so I'm not going to say it. And their French fries are really, really good though. And so I'm really, truly excited about this, um, JT. Right. Um, so let me go ahead and tell everybody who we're looking at right here first. So I'm George Teague, one of your hosts, JT. I think he's on the bottom of your screen. James Teague, the another host for the show, always the analytical one, brings the fire every single week, makes us look good and do this kind of stuff. He's a coach. He's a engineer or programmer. Well, I don't know what's the best way. Do I call you an engineer? Or what am I
Well,
supposed to call you?
there's that's a
What's the
hot
term?
debate, but my contract says software engineer.
All right. Well, that's what I always say. So he's an engineer as well. But let me tell you about this other guy that's on our screen right now. And you're probably going to have a hard time trying to pronounce his last name because I know I was. I've known the guy for a while, right? Anthony, I'll get it right. Giuliano. Did I say that
You got
right,
it.
sir?
Yeah,
Anthony
man, you got it.
Giuliano. Okay, so he is the regional instructor in South Carolina, North Carolina, and Georgia for the Coles Professional Kicking. He's been training kickers and punters for many years, and he's built some of the most successful Coles training division to date. He's really, really good at what he does. His alumni include a number of D1 kickers and punters, and he on his resume he even have multiple NFL starters. Right, I like that because when we do fantasy football, every now and then he'll give me a tip on which kicker I should draft late.
Yeah, I do that. It did hurt me a couple seasons ago,
It
though.
did. It
I
helped
think I
me
gave
really,
you.
really well when he told me
Yeah,
who to take it. He
you
ended
took
up
Daniel
being.
Carlson when he went to the Raiders and
I
ended
did.
up being the leader in the league that year, I think. So
That's right. That's right. So I
yeah,
was very
hurt
happy
me.
with
Won the league.
that. Say that again. Who won the league?
I think you won the league, didn't you?
Okay. All right. Yeah.
I
All right.
know
I
it
was
wasn't
just
me.
Oh,
Yeah, I know it
just had to check, huh?
yeah, just had to add that. Okay, so he's been training a lot of people, but he played college football as well. Charleston Southern University, first team all conference as a kicker. Man, he's been coaching showcases and college camps with Cole since 2011. Uh, Married to his wife Jennifer and has two kids, Maria and Jonathan. Right, so this is going to be awesome. I need to go ahead and point this out here because I don't even know if JT knows this yet on how I got to know this gentleman. Because I knew his skills that what he had working with people through Coles. Some people in Texas are going to get that kind of confused a little bit, JT, because Coles is spelled Kohl, like the Coles, the clothing store out here. That is not what we're talking about. I don't know if they have a division there, but maybe he can give us some insight on maybe those are the same people that own it. I don't know. Right. But Jacob Carlson, JT,
Mm-hmm.
our kicker at JP2, when I was coaching him my freshman year, I saw the way that he kicked the ball and the way it sounded coming off his foot and things. And I actually called Anthony and I said, man, this dude has some talent. I think he's a Division I kicker. How can I help to get him trained up? And he led me into the right spot to try to be able to help to do this right. Jacob Carlson just signed with the Naval Academy as a kicker, so another Division I kicker there. But everybody, please give a round of applause to our special guest, Anthony Giuliano. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah. That's how they do it, Anthony. They bring the noise in here. All right. So before we go on, you guys got any before we start talking about kickers and all that stuff, you guys got any kind of feedback, take on this? I'm gonna go with JT first about this settlement, right? Why they only go back to 2016, JT? What's up with that? There's some of us kind of not feeling very. How they pick out this 1 year and how they know when to stop?
I don't know how they come up with that. I have no idea. I'm sure there was some kind of compromise, but who knows? Who knows how much money they got just laying around and decided that that was enough? I'm sure that's probably what it was. They decided on how much money they actually wanted to pay back, and then just prorated that and figured out how many years that was gonna go back. But
Who's paying the money?
The NCAA has the funds, and so from the settlement, it says that it's going to come through the conferences in the NCAA. I
Through the
don't know.
conferences, NCAA to the schools directly.
Yeah. Now, how they're going to figure out who's supposed to get what and all that kind of stuff. So they have broken it down by certain schools will have $1 million or $2 million. But there's a lot of reading in that. You need to go ahead and if people are really interested in that, go back and there's plenty of stuff out on the internet now that you can look to see how all that money is going to be broken down, right? So
I know you guys have talked a lot about that stuff here lately. Really, I guess it's just now made it legal for these universities to go ahead and pay. Well, we're talking about future players anyways. it kind of was education on the back burner, athletics on the front burner. This just kind of pushes it a little bit further, in my opinion. But between that and everything else that's going on, I'd hate to be a college coach right now, between NIL money and scholarships versus transfer portal, everything else that's going on, and then have that dumped on top.
Well,
like gasoline on fire.
Will there even be scholarships if you're paying someone? I mean, I don't even
think there needs to be anymore. There's nobody regulating the NIL from our standpoint. I think as far as
so what is
weird
it roster limits?
Well, they say they're pretty much going to go away
Oh,
because you're going to have money.
makes sense.
Depends on how much money you have.
Unless they cap the teams like NFL does, it's going to get pretty crazy. It's Wild West.
So in this agreement, though, they do have, basically it's going to essentially be a cap, it sounds like, where they're going to have, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think it was like a $20 million cap by conference. So almost like a cap that they're going to be able to use. The caveat is that's not only for football. I think that's where it's going to start to get dicey, because they're talking about how you're going to have to pay everybody. And through this revenue sharing, you're supposed to be able to pull off of this $20 million. So I think it's going to help in one sense, but I still think there'll be people getting paid under the table, because that ain't going to be enough.
So is it separate from NIL, or it's all combined now?
Separate. NIL will be.
So as long as NIL's there, if they're not regulating that and cap, then it ain't going to matter.
Yeah. So what I'm wondering about is, what does this do when you start to pay them? Because what they're not talking about, or the only thing they're talking about, is the money, and not what happens when you become an employee. Are there going to be benefits? Do they have to give these guys and girls health benefits? Are there going to be 401ks? Does this create a union? Collective bargaining agreements? I don't know.
Well, one thing that I know for sure is going to have to go away is the notion that, like, right now you can't pull a scholarship based on athletic performance. That ain't gonna fly no more. If they're gonna be able to just pay you, then they're gonna be able to cut you.
Well, you got kids now, and it's crazy, and I've actually seen this here lately, where kid enters scholarship player enters transfer portal. If he doesn't find a home, that university's tied to that scholarship, and they either got to let him come back and play for that team, or let him go to school and still pay for his education. So the kids got all the power in that scenario because they can't pull that scholarship. So a lot of these smaller FCS schools, lower Power 5 conference schools, for us, like what we see with kickers trying to move up, they're moving up from one tier to the next tier. I mean, they're not going to pull a scholarship for performance. They can't. They're tied to it. And if that kicker doesn't find a home, punter doesn't find a home, then, what are they going to do? They got to let them come back, either play on the team, go to school, pay a scholarship anyways. It's a dicey situation. I think you're going to see less and less scholarships handed out, and they'll go NIL 1 year, because if the kid doesn't pan out or he transfers, then they're not on the hook for anything more than that 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
That's my opinion. It's probably what's going to happen.
There's going to be collusion, man, and there's going to be pay cuts. You jump in that portal and you get stuck. You're going to be stuck. So Chemical Coyote asked a great question about how does this affect amateur athletes in the Olympics. It is going to affect amateur athletics.
I think that the Olympics part is the more interesting part of that question to me, because the Olympic sports have already had this exemption or exception where if you win gold or you win a medal and your country wants to pay you because you got a medal at the Olympics, that's okay. Unless you're that one swimmer from Texas who, for some reason, the NCAA is like, no, your country paid you too much money. you're not eligible anymore, but everybody else got paid. So, I don't know, but that has always been kind of weird to me that that's allowed.
But it all started with the Dream Team, right? I mean, it was all amateur basketball players until they decided they weren't going to get beat anymore, and then they didn't.
Yep.
But all those guys were paid very well before they went out. So
That's right. So we're not going to dive into that too much. I want to make sure everyone knows. Mark your calendars, set a reminder, hit the bell on our page for June the 12th. We are going to have an NCAA employee, official, I don't know what we actually call him, but Mario Morris, who played at the University of Alabama, who was on the national championship team with me as well. But he's a senior administrator with the NCAA, and he's the CFO of the NCAA. So he has a whole lot of information about this and maybe some good opinions we might be able to pull from because he's around the money. He knows how this is all shaken out. So he has agreed to come on June the 12th. That's 2 weeks from now, 8:15 p.m. Make sure you guys join in because that's going to be another fire one because he can give us more talk about this stuff, real talk, other than us just speculating. All right, so I want to ask Anthony a little bit about this because I don't know that I've seen a lot of kickers in the portal before. It seems like more guys are starting to get drafted, kickers and things. So how has this transfer portal changed or improved or maybe NIL money for the betterment of kickers and punters?
Well, we've seen a lot more in the portal for sure. Typically each year we have about anywhere from 10 to 15 players get a scholarship, D1. The NIL money and so on and so forth. A lot of players that are in state and college, only cost them $7,000 or whatever the case may be for that in-state school. They'll get $7,000 or $10,000 NIL, and that just pays for the scholarship. So it's opened up a little more room for players. We are starting to see now it transition more from scholarship to walk-on as far as college is concerned. NFL wise, we've definitely seen, that 5th, 6th, 7th round pick, just based on what the team's needs are, them going after a player. In the last 6 years, I've had Presley Harvin, was drafted out of Georgia Tech, actually played in an all-star game that you and I coached in. But he's a Ray Guy Award winner. Out of Georgia Tech, went to Pittsburgh, played 3 seasons there. But then also I just had a kid that was drafted 2 years ago, and Ethan Evans for LA Rams came out of D2 Wingate, which is, I think he was the only D2 player drafted that year. And he's in his second year with the Rams. So we're seeing that. And Rams got a rookie kicker this year as well in Joshua Carty out of Stanford, North Carolina kid. So we're seeing a lot more of that. But as far as the collegiate level, we're seeing a lot more transfer than we have in the past. The kid that I've coached for a while, Michael Lance, just went from Georgia Southern to USC. Now we've got Nichols coming from Miami, Ohio, with some incredible stats into Alabama to fill some pretty big shoes. And Will Reichert. Will's been a great player for us, big Coles guy for years. So to see him come in that scholarship era, and now we're in the transfer era. Coach Nunez is coming from Oklahoma. He's got a lot of ties with Coles, and calls us Jamie Cole, just to clear the air with Coles, the Coles and Coles thing too, by the way. So not the same company. We get it all the time. Oddly enough, number 2 in charge of number 1 in charge is Jamie Cole. He owns Cole's professional kicking camps, and I'm one of the regional instructors in the U.S. Number 2 in charge, Luke Radke. Oddly enough, his wife is very high up in the Cole's department store nationally. So she picks. So they both work for Cole's, totally different Cole's. So she basically picks all the clothes that are going to go in, I believe, something like that. into all the stores across the country. Completely unrelated, but just kind of ironic that she works for Kohl's and so does he. Completely different organizations, but yeah, no. So we've seen a lot more of the transfer stuff here lately, especially guys moving from these schools where they've proven themselves, and the coaches really want a kid that's proven themselves. So, but where that door, opens at Alabama, and a kid from Miami of Ohio is able to transfer into an Alabama, that opens the door at Miami, Ohio for somebody to either step up there or pull in from high school. So it's not necessarily gotten larger. There's just been more, the opportunities have shifted, I guess you could say. Would probably be the easiest way to say it. Just the way the kids are getting there now has shifted a little bit. A lot more preferred walk-ons and things of that nature.
So just tell us a little bit about yourself before we move on to these kickoffs and other things. How'd you get started with, kicking and make your way all the way over to Kohl's and doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, so obviously played in high school, did pretty well there. Went to Charleston Southern. Wasn't a great kicker in high school. I think I was the number 2 kicker in South Carolina coming out of high school. Wasn't recruited back in those days. We didn't have all that stuff. So it was between Clemson and Charleston Southern. Went to Charleston Southern. Tried to play a little bit there. Best part about it is I met my wife down there, moved back to Columbia, South Carolina in 2004. It wasn't until about 2007 or 8, I believe, maybe a little bit later, when a friend of mine called me, said he had a kid that was at a high school. He was trying to be a punter and he was struggling. I went over there to help him out. He ended up being pretty good. High school coach asked me to come on and help them out for the rest of the year. Long story short, that kid went on and played D2 and just kind of a late bloomer, but he went and played D2. Took him to a bunch of Kohl's camps, and Jamie Cole and I had a bunch of conversations back and forth. And he was looking for somebody in the area that could train guys, because Kohl's is out of Iowa, Wisconsin area. So they didn't have anybody down here in the Southeast, which is a real hotbed for kickers, punters, and snappers. So I started back in about 2010 or 11, helping Jamie out with camps and training. We started a training division, I think, in 2015. So I think every year, right now in Georgia, I have one in downtown Atlanta. It's a training division where we train about 65, give or take, high school punters and kickers every other Saturday for 10 sessions. And then we do the same thing here in Columbia, South Carolina, where I have people come from North Carolina and all over on Sundays. I think it's right around 60 kids in that one as well. So we do that every year. We try to train them starting in late February, training them up until the end of July, right before they hit fall camp with the team, to have them ready to go. After the season's over, we have a weight training plan, all kinds of other stuff they can do for leg speed. Get your season done with, rest up, get bigger, faster, stronger, and then come back to us in the next February. And we start the process all over again of training the body what to do and how to get through a couple seconds on the field where you're either loved or hated, depending on what happens with that kick. So it's a fun time.
Well, I wanted to make sure that everyone knew what his expertise is. So thank you for sharing that, and knowing that when we're talking about this, the next few pieces, we're dealing with someone who knows, you're just an expert in the field, right? You did mention something, so you're still living in South Carolina, is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So how many times do you go to the beach out that way, and what would be your favorite part about going to the beach?
We actually haven't been to the beach here in South Carolina in quite some time. My family and I have been, ever since COVID hit, we got a good deal my wife found going to Mexico in Cancun. So we actually just got back from there last week. But I grew up in Myrtle Beach. So we're kind of torn here. I grew up in Myrtle Beach, or going back and forth to Myrtle Beach, which is probably our most popular tourist destination in South Carolina. My wife grew up in Charleston, which has two different beaches, Folly Beach and Isle of Palms, and they aren't tourist attraction beaches, so a little bit more of a calm feel down there. So when I went for the first time, I got there, I'm kind of like, well, where's all the rides, the Ferris wheels and the roller coasters and everything? Like, you're supposed to have putt-putt courses every 5-10 feet. And, that's what Myrtle Beach is. So when we went to Myrtle Beach, she's like, why is all this junk here? It depends on who you talk to and where you want to go. But they're all three great beaches to go to. And then there's other little secluded ones, Edisto Beach, where it's a little more like where our friend Rodney Beasley lives up in North Carolina. It's kind of secluded and kind of not near as busy, but the beach he's at is really nice as well. So we can't complain too much. Well,
let me tell you something, because if you're going to Myrtle Beach, Charleston, or Mexico, what if I told you that there's a way for you not to have to spend any extra money anywhere, set any flights, doing things of this nature, making trips, all this stuff, because we know some people that can bring a beach to your backyard. Take a listen to this quick announcement about Beaches LLC. Let me tell you about Beaches LLC. Yes, Beaches LLC is your source in the state of Alabama and the Florida Panhandle for exquisite quartz sand beach pools by Biodesign USA. A Biodesign beach sculpted pool is crafted with beach entries, customized seating areas, and swimming zones, and they all can be personalized to your swimming needs. The Biodesign swimming pool is meant to immerse you in your surrounding environment. The illusion of a truly beautiful beach can be created and extended onto the patio area, creating one seamless shore environment. Let them help you turn your dream backyard escape into reality with an eco-friendly, more durable, less time, and less expensive to maintain, totally customizable pool. To learn more about turning your dream into a reality, please visit their website at www.yourbackyardbeach.com. Man, that's good stuff right there, brother. You have your own beach in your backyard, and y'all ain't got to argue about where you're going, who's doing what, and why there ain't no rides. You put whatever games and stuff you want in your own backyard and walk into your own beach. So thank you, Beaches LLC, for being a supporter of Teague's Take, and putting in those nice pools down there that you continue to do on a monthly basis. All right, so let's get into some kickoffs real quick, right? So at first we were just going to be talking about the style and all that, but can we hit on this NFL thing? Can we talk about the rules of the NFL kickoffs? It's going to be coming up pretty quick. I'm sure we're going to see it in preseason, and with you having the expertise on this, maybe you can give us a quick run through on what we should expect and what kickers have to do now that they might not have to do before. We'll put the graphic up after you give us a little introduction to it.
Yeah, so the whole gist of it, it seems that it's just to lower rate of concussion, which makes sense and is understandable because it's the highest rate of speed and the longest distance players are going to travel. It's typically on kickoff. So now you're going to see the kickoff return team all in one line. Behind the 35-yard line, you're going to see the kickoff team at the 40 right in front of them. So you can see these two lines here. So the kickoff team will be in red, or that red line. The kick return team will be in the blue line. And then you've got that gold area where the landing zone is. The kicker will continue to stay at the 35-yard line in NFL. And we think this is going to come into college and probably into high school within the next couple of years. It's, again, a safety protocol. Now, this does create a little bit more, I guess, pressure for the special teams coordinators here, because in the past, it's just, booted out of the back of the end zone, let them take the ball, depending on NFL or NCAA, whether they're taking it to 2025 or whatever. But this is going to be a little bit different. So I don't think you're going to see much of it in the preseason. I think you're going to see a lot of guys boot it from the back of the end zone. That's my honest opinion. And the ball's just going to come out of the 35. But when you look at the percentages of an NFL team scoring, starting at their own or the opposite, 35-yard line, obviously it's higher than if you could pin them a little bit deeper. So the biggest thing is once that ball, it either hits the ground in that landing zone or the returner touches the ball, catches it. That is when the return team and the kickoff team can move. They cannot move until that ball either hits the ground or the returner. So that's where everything's going to get a little bit different. So I don't think that the kickers are going to try and hit it right to the returner, because I think that's pretty dangerous. It's going to be a lot of stuff that looks like a lot of pulls that are going to happen. The way this line is set up is going to look like a GH counter type deal where you're going to see guys just kind of, it's an X block type deal. They're going to trap them. Yep. So I don't think they wanted to kick it right to the returner. What I'm trying to work on with some guys is like a lower ball that kind of just goes right over the kickoff team and the kick return team. It's hard to field. It's kind of curving as it goes over, hits the ground, and then it makes it a little bit more difficult for the returner to pick it back up. By the time it does hit the ground and he does get it, it's going to be kind of late.
Let me so two things. One, JT, I don't know if we have that film of him, what he's talking about here with his curving. I don't know if you actually uploaded that or not.
Yeah, I got it.
So maybe we could. No, not that one. Yeah. Okay.
So this is Ethan Evans here with the LA Rams. We tried this a little while ago before he went out for OTAs, but trying to get him to drive this ball, and it's kind of curving from right to left. The worst that's going to happen is this ball is going to go out of bounds. Now, if it goes out of bounds, it comes back into the field of play 25 yards in front of where it went out of bounds. So if it goes out of bounds at the 10, you're going to get it at 35, same as if you kicked it out of bounds. If it goes out, if anything better than that, it goes out of the 5 or the 1, you're still in okay shape. But I think you're going to start to see more stuff like this. Now, what does it do for the value of a punter that can kick off in NFL? I think it lowers that bar for them. It makes it more of a kicker duty, not necessarily a big, strong kickoff leg. So this one in particular is more of a soccer style hit, trying to just make it a little bit more difficult. I think you're going to see more stuff like that in the NFL. I don't think you're going to see as many just going out of the back of the end zone.
So last question about this, because I don't think I heard you say anything about it, but on the kickoffs, will there be fair catches then? They didn't say anything about that. Are they allowed to fair catch it, or just once it gets into that zone, they have to run it?
They have to take it. It must be returned. If they catch it in, and if the ball doesn't get to the zone, then it comes all the way out to the 40, I believe. So
okay,
it's a lot.
So are we worried about this from a kicker standpoint? I guess there got to be safeties that are going to have to drop back too, but it just seems like with them so close, if someone breaks through that doggone line, Anthony, they're going to be running out of kicker
tackle
from
anyway.
Yeah,
it's not going to matter. We can't tackle anyway.
Well,
except my buddy Pat McAfee, he's laid the wood a couple of times. It's been pretty impressive. But no, man, they're going to have to play safety and just hope they can do something. But it's going to elevate the kicker, the normal kicker. Typically, you have a punter, kickoff specialist. But I think you're going to see a lot more kickers doing the duty here from now on. So, it kind of, I see Sean Riley saying he let his, I don't doubt that he didn't. He let
sound like he needed a better cover team. If he
no joke. I probably wouldn't have been a kicker. I'd have been playing safety. If my kicker's making tackles, we got a problem.
So what do you guys do? Last one, I already said this before, but I just need to know. Did you ever have to work on tackling drills? Did they teach you anything like, hey, how to stay in front or just something to make them go lateral, or what did they do?
So back in my day, you remember we did the old Oklahoma drills. So you have maybe one offensive lineman, one defensive lineman, and then a safety or a linebacker behind them, and you had the ball on the other side. That was it. You got to stay between the cones. We don't do any of this stuff anymore, not like we used to, but that's what we had. they used to line me up with the worst offensive lineman, the best defensive lineman, and the best defensive guy. And they give me one shot in the spring and let me just get absolutely laid out. And then they say, all right, now go over there and kick balls for the rest of the time, and we'll just do what we do. Call on you, we need you. But no, now with the tackling wheels and all that kind of stuff at the high school that I used to train right there. We saw Ethan. I train all their specialists as well. We do tackling drills with them with the tackling wheels, trying to get angles and trying to get them to attack more downfield. I don't want to see a kicker jogging downfield. If he doesn't put it in the end zone, he better be running downfield making a tackle. He's a football player first. You put on a football helmet, you're a football player. You got to man up. So yeah, we teach them how to get after the ball. We don't want them trying to be in an open field trying to make a tackle and looking stupid. So, but it does happen.
Okay. All right. JT, you got anything to add before we get to this film on Graham Nicholson, and let's start talking about some technical stuff?
No, I'm just happy to hear that he teaches his kickers how to tackle. Although it's a double-edged sword for me because I am always the first one to say that the kickers, I would be totally okay if the kicker kicked it off and just went ahead, picked up a tee and went to the sideline because it's not his job. Like we have so many other problems if the kicker has to make a tackle.
No doubt.
But at the same time, I also don't enjoy that the kickers get to just go off and do whatever they want to during practice while the rest of us are doing Oklahoma drill or whatever, because that's not fun. It's never been fun.
Well, my kids, they've got a routine, so they're either walking around the track dropping a football and then doing one steps, and we've got a separate set of poles that they'll go kick in. Obviously they can't kick for 2 hours, but they get after it. And then when they're not kicking, they'll come and run. We film all of our practices with drones. We have a drone for offense, drone for defense. And if the kickers aren't, we make sure they're not doing anything during those periods, and they film the whole practice for us. So,
oh, see, that's a good idea.
Yeah, we keep them integrated in the team. They got to be part of the team. They can't be out there by themselves.
Like it. I like it.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I'm gonna have to steal that and bring that to the head coach.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
All right, Graham Nicholson. This dude, man, his stats are really, really good. As he said, 27 to 28, I think he was last year in field goals. He actually, his percentages was a little bit better than Will Reichert, right? So this is, before we go into this, can you just talk to us about the mindset of a kicker first? I'm looking at this one here. It's 48-yard kick or something like that. So how do you train a guy on the mindset of knowing you got all these guys getting ready to come at you? Maybe it's, the end of the game is coming down to you. What kind of what kind of psychology do you have to do with kickers?
So once we've got a kid trained up to hit a straight ball, it's kind of odd for a kicking guy to say this, but we don't care about the two upright poles. We want to know where the ball is when it crosses the upright. And you're going to see Graham is really good at this, about hitting a straight ball. He probably doesn't have the strongest leg in the nation. He's a strong kid, and he's 96%, I think, last year, hit a 50-something yarder, but he hits a straight ball, and that's a big thing for a coach. So once you've gotten to the point where you can hit that straight ball, it's about teaching how to do it under pressure. So if you can hit that straight ball once, you can do it 1,000 times. What I use when I'm training guys is, okay, if I put a 2x4 on the ground, ask you to walk across that 2x4, you'd walk across it pretty quick, not a big deal. But if I put the 2x4 30 feet in the air, ask you to do the same thing, how are you going to walk across it then? And they say, well, I'm a lot slower, and so on and so forth. Well, why? Because the task did not change. The task is just walking across a 2x4. The only thing that changed were the circumstances. So in kicking, you can be great off of sticks, but then the circumstances change on Friday nights. Mom and dad and grandma are coming. You put on your pads, heart rate goes up a little bit. You go out and warm up. You hear the student section start chirping at you. everything gets a little bit more pressure here and here. It elevates, keeps elevating. So how can you do the same task? Because what I'm asking you to do on Friday night with everybody watching and 11 guys coming at you is no different than what I'm asking you to do when you just got it teed up by yourself on the practice field. It's just the stuff around it has changed. You can't control the blocking, you can't control the snap, you can't control the hold, but you can control what you do. So getting kickers to understand that it just comes down to what they do. Don't try to do more than what you do. And you'll see that a lot of guys, when they get back, if you look at that 50 or 48 yarder again by Graham, when they get back, even really good kickers, to distances like that, they try to swing a little bit harder. It's kind of like me and you on a golf course. If we go out there and we try to get a little bit more, if I slow my swing down, I could be the 80-year-old dude on a golf course that just puts it right down the middle all the time if I just slow down. But if I speed up, it's going to be 3 fairways over to the right. You see a lot of kickers do the same thing. It's got a lot of the same tendencies. So backing off of power to get a better ball is something that we preach all the time. And then we try to simulate that in practice by having them sprint to the sidelines and sprint back to elevate their heart rate, elevate their blood pressure, knees get a little bit weak, breathing's a little heavier, and then execute the kick without all that, and then run to the sideline, come back and execute it again. And we'll do it with our snapper, holder, and kicker. We'll have them all three on the field, and they got to run opposite side of the sideline, sprint, come back, do 5 or 6 push-ups, and then we're counting the clock down to hit a kick. So Graham, I think, has done that.
5 or 6, you're taking it easy on them. You're taking it easy on them push-ups.
Well,
Man,
you got a clock running too.
Okay, take on there.
When you got a long snapper out there, depending on who the long snapper is, and if he's your right guard, he ain't gonna do 5 push-ups real fast.
Yeah. JT, is there any way you can hit that back real fast? I just want to ask him about the placement of your foot, because I've been noticing, and maybe some of you guys have seen, it may change with the new kickoffs, right? But your foot placement on the ball is a little bit different on actually how you hit the ball. Is that correct? Between the kickoff and the field goal, and can you try to make that? Can you try to put that in words and maybe show on a ball how your foot actually hits the ball versus? Right. Yeah, no, I got to show everybody this is Alabama.
You're gonna show off. That's okay.
Yeah,
at least it's not that Clemson one. That's from where I'm from back here. That's old Clemson sitting behind. We only got that one with y'all. So it doesn't really change. The biggest thing I can tell you, probably the easiest way to put it into words, is because you're off of the ground with a field goal, having your toe closer to the sideline and heel down allows you more control over where the ball is going. Okay, it's not as powerful because you're kicking with smaller muscles as adductors on the inside thigh, abductors on the outside. So you're kind of pulling with your groin and pushing with the outside of your hip. When we get the kickoff, we change the foot position to where your knee is pointed downfield, and now you're kicking with more quad and hamstring, bigger muscles. So we don't really care as much about the accuracy of a kickoff as we do about the violence of the kickoff. Sweet spot on the ball doesn't change. It's usually a third of the way up the ball. We use this one that I have from University of South Carolina. But when we come in with the foot at an angle for field goal, we're still hitting that same spot. Okay, when we come in at kickoff, well, I don't have shoes around. I'd show you. When you come in with your toe out, let's pretend the end of my fingers is my toe, I got a lot more control here because I got a lot of surface area on my foot to mess with here. When I raise my heel up and hit with my quad and hamstring, I'm just using a little bit more power in my body. It doesn't really change what I'm doing with the ball. The ball is also teed up about an inch off of the ground, a little over an inch off the ground. So it makes it a little easier. It raises that sweet spot up. So if you were to try to kick kickoff like field goal, not going to go very far. It's going to spin. You're going to hit it down here, which is below the sweet spot. It's going to spin really fast, not going to go very far. And a lot of kickers struggle with that. And that's why you see a lot of punters are typically better kickoff guys, because their legs are typically a little stronger, a little longer. And, if we were to draw out punt, field goal, and kickoff on a line, I'd say punt is here and field goal is here. Your kickoff is way closer to punt than it is to field goal because of the muscles you're using.
Okay.
The only reason the ball rotates that way is because of the block.
All right. So on these next couple clips or whatever, I wanted to see if you can talk to us about the left foot. So the plant foot, what is it? There's almost a little hop. Sometimes it looks like they're about to roll their ankle.
So that's a kicker
what is it
specific
supposed
thing,
to
man.
do? Yeah.
So right here, you're getting lift that you see. The end of the day, we want our kickers to plant lightly into the ground. So their energy is getting through the ball. Their energy is not going up and down. It's not planting into the ground, and it causes a lot of different issues with crunching and head drops, so on and so forth. But we want them to glide into that plant foot really light, and when they release, when their kicking foot swings through, we're going to see this release downfield. He should get downfield and fall off to the left the same distance. So if he falls off to the left and gets downfield about a yard downfield and a yard to the left, he's pretty balanced as a kicker. If he just falls off really, really hard to the left and doesn't get downfield, that means he's got a lot of weight in the ground and he's not getting all of his power through the kick. So we would try to, manipulate that. But listen, Graham does a good job here. Again, if you see his ball, when it gets up, it flies straight, man. It doesn't move left and right a whole bunch. And that's going to be a big thing, especially in a lot of the stadiums you guys play in. These open stadiums like this where he's used to playing, the wind is not as big of a factor as it is when you get to some of the places you're going to be playing.
Why is that?
So
why
you're
would the
different.
open stadium not have a wind problem?
He's saying because he's used to it. I think he's saying because he's been playing outside.
Well, that stadium in particular, when you get to a Jordan Hare, you get to somewhere, you go to Georgia, South Carolina, where they got just the four corners are open, the end zones are blocked. That wind, it could be coming in at different angles, different speeds from both sides. And when you go warm up, these guys warm up about an hour before the game, which nobody usually sees because they're tailgating in the parking lot. But when you get in and you go kick, the ball could fly completely different on the east end of the field as it does on the west end. I mean, it could be 100% different because of the way the wind blows around the scoreboard or through the turnstiles or the ramps going up to the stadium. A lot of different factors come into play there, which really makes hitting a straight ball a huge commodity. Obviously, Coach Nunez knows what he's doing. Luke Radke, our second in charge, talked to him a couple weeks ago about some high school kids. But, when you're looking for a guy, that's the one thing you're looking for is hitting that straight ball. And that plant foot, having him come out and release out of that plant foot says that he's getting a lot of power into the ball, getting downfield. Just basic stuff. It should always be pointing towards the target. If it shouldn't be pointing to the left or the right, it should be pointing towards the target. That's pretty simple, basic stuff. But usually I'm looking at what happens when he releases downfield with that plant. Because if they're stuck in the ground, it could be a big issue later down the road.
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot to this. We're only talking about the kicker now, but you got obviously three pieces to it, or two other pieces, the snapper and the holder. So can you tell us the snappers? All right, so this is something that I had to learn a lot as a head coach, I guess, was, where the threads are supposed to be. How do you get the threads back to where the holder isn't having to spin the ball too much? Is there something that's being taught to the snappers so they know, what the velocity of their ball is pretty much going to hit the hands of the holder?
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit different for everybody. It depends on how the holder catches it. When we train our high school guys, we tell them, all right, we don't care what you got to do. Take them to get a steak dinner, but bring your holder and your long snapper to one of our sessions, and they're going to work with me. You're going to work with our other coaches kicking. I'm going to work with the snappers and the holders, and then we're going to come together and do live snap and hold. So depending on the snapper, they could look at getting a 4.5 to 5.5 rotations on the ball, so on and so forth. We could break it down into the particulars, but the easiest way that we coach it for the high school group, because it's the hardest. In high school, you have guys off the edge that are just as fast as they are in college. You got guys that run, 4.5s or less in some areas. They're just as fast as college. So you've got to have a good operation time. We're shooting for 1.2 seconds or less from the time the ball moves to the time it's kicked. That's what we're shooting for.
At what level? At high school? You're going 1-2?
Well, our high school, we play in I'm going to say it lightly, we play in the SEC of divisions in South Carolina anyways. So, the two teams in our division last year played for state championship. So we play with some pretty good talent, or against some pretty good talent. So we don't have it. And plus I'm there, Sean know what I'm talking about. You can't really not have a good special teams unit when you're supposed to be the special teams guru guy. So we shoot for collegiate level at River Bluff where I coach, but the easiest way to gauge that, George, I think is, we usually have the snapper take the ball and just shoot back about 5 snaps to the holder. And when the holder catches them, we just have him frame it. Don't take it down to the ground. Don't do anything with it. Just frame it and tell me where the laces are. If the laces are facing me like this, when I put it down, I'm going to try and get this in the camera. When I put it down, I have to push the laces away from me and bring my hand back. So that takes a lot of time to push away and bring back. So I want the laces facing away from me as much as possible. So if the ball is rotating back to me this way and I'm getting laces 4 or 5 times out of 5 or 10, let's just say we're getting a 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5, I'm going to move back as a holder about a half a yard. I'm going to go to 7.5 yards and just let that ball rotate a little bit more. So now the laces are away from me. So when I pull it down, as I'm pulling my hand away to me, I can straighten the ball up and I'm done. So instead of trying to teach a kid how to spin it a little bit faster, we'll just play the percentages of, on average, being at 7.25, 7.75, even 8 yards. You see a lot of colleges go to 8 yards. Same in the NFL. A lot of times they're doing that. It's because of the generalized rotation from the snapper. So yeah, that snapper's got to be good. He's got to be perfect. The holder's got to have the best hands on the team. Because if you drop 1 or 2 passes in a game, it's not a big deal. You drop 1 hold for a game-winning kick, and you're gonna be finding an Uber back home to the school. So it is what it is. So you gotta perform. You gotta trust as a kicker that the other 2 are gonna do what they do. But that is the easiest way for us to coach it for those snappers. Not try to change the snapper, just try to change the distance and make it a little easier on the holder.
Makes sense. And Sean Riley, that's kind of rude of you to slam on my Cowboys like that and just go ahead and hit Tony Romo for, I don't know if I still don't know if it's his fault or not. They said the ball was greased or something. But anyway, I don't know. JT, I do want to say the Chemical Coyote, she asked a question about, a football question, non-kicking, and she was asking about, when you have a kid, what do you do to train them? Do you train the position you played or something else? To me, I would say you go with the position that they have interest in, and the body styles and body types are going to be different and all that. I didn't necessarily want JT to be a defensive back. Didn't necessarily start out that way. He was a very good running back. He migrated that way with his teams to doing both and wide receiver and everything else. So I would say if you're going to help them and train them, see what their interests are, but be realistic about it too. If they're 6'6", 305 pounds, and they say they want to play running back, then you need to have a conversation with them about that as well. So otherwise, let them play. What they want. It'll all work out. That eventually a coach will tell them, son, we've had this on our teams. Every kid wants to play. Every kid want to play quarterback. Everybody want to play quarterback. Nah, man. You get over here and be one of these long snappers for us because we need some of those too, right? That Mr. Anthony is telling you about. Okay,
Right.
so are there any other points necessary that you think we need to hit with this kicking? Because I know this is so specialized, and people, when you guys are listening to this, we ain't even touching the surface about all the things they have to do. Right? What happens when it's college and the hash marks are really wide, and now you got to aim. You know, I think my biggest you kind of hit on it some, but what do the kickers have to see or do, Anthony? Because those guys coming off the edge, them dudes are fast, man. You know, one little small little glitch. What are they? I mean, how do you keep them from not worrying about that flash or someone going to fall into their leg or something? You just tell them just to have this. Is it just that simple? You're just saying just take the easy stroke and not worry about it, or is there? You know, how do you help these guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same as like we go back to that golf swing. You know, hitting it harder, moving faster, throwing your tempo and your rhythm off. Most kickers, I'll say this first. When you look at a good kicker, and a lot of people will laugh at this, and I'm talking about a really good kicker. Some of the guys in the NFL even, especially the guys in the NFL. When you look at a really good kicker, they are typically a really good general athlete. That doesn't mean they're a great quarterback or running back or whatever, but they're typically a better all-around athlete. They might play 2-3 sports. They might play baseball, soccer, basketball. Just that generic athleticism that some kids are born with and some are not. So when your better kickers have that, if they have that tempo and that rhythm, and you can just see it and it's smooth like your kicker, you can just see it. Like, you know, you don't have to be, you know, a guru. I don't have to be a quarterback guru to see a difference between a good quarterback and a bad quarterback. I mean, it's pretty simple. You can just see it sometimes. And it's the same with these guys. So if they try to get outside of what we call their frame and try to swing bigger and stronger and faster and speed up their tempo and throws everything out of rhythm, well, what if the guy doesn't get there? The kick's still going to be terrible. So why hit it? If they block it, something else happened. In 1.2 seconds, either you didn't have a wing out there, something else happened. If they can get to it that quick, it could be the snap. You can't control the snap. You can't control the hold. You can only control you. So do what you do, and you know, let it be what it is. I mean, it's either going to be great or it's not. You can't let all the other stuff get in your head. So you kick an extra point the same way you kick a 50-yard field goal. If you try to do it any different, probably not going to be real successful at kicking long field goals or field goals, period, especially in high pressure situations. So we do a lot of the mental game as well. You know, we talk about a quarterback. Quarterback goes 80% in the game. You know, he's had a decent game. A kicker goes 80% in the game and misses the game-winning field goal. You know, he don't have a whole lot of good friends going into the bus ride home, like we've said. You know, so I kind of try to push that narrative. Like, you don't have as many opportunities, and like as a punter, same thing. You got to have the best hands on the team, because you drop a snap on a punt snap, everybody sees it, and it's, you know, why do we even punt? That's what you're going to hear. All you do is kick in practice. That's what you're going to get from the coaches. You only have one job. So we hear all of that stuff, and we know
players too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So what happens? What do you guys do? And JT, I don't know. Maybe you know, or maybe you watched your kickers in your games. But what do you guys really do? I'm not saying during the game. I am saying during the game. But what are you doing? Are you guys watching the game most of the time? Or are you just sitting? Because a lot of times you guys aren't interacting with everybody else, because we're getting in our little defensive huddles and our offensive huddles, and we're doing all this, and we see you guys kicking in the net. But what the hell are you doing for like 3 hours, man?
Well, I can tell you what Jacob Carlson was doing for during our games. He was always by a coach, but he was never by the coach that had their unit on the field. So like when the offense was by the field, Jacob Carlson was somewhere around me watching the game. Yeah, and he's just listening. He might make a comment or two, but he was kind of hanging out. But I'll give him his credit because he was one of the very few players that knew what was going on during the game
Football.
and like situationally aware at all times during the game. You know, how many points are we down? Are we going to go for 2? If we're going to score here, is this a punting situation? Do I need to be going to the net? I'm about to be called out here. Like, he knew all of the things. He was very in tune with big third down stops, all that kind of, which is more than I could say for a lot of the other kids.
Non-players. Yep.
Okay. I'll tell you, the high school we're at, we actually train our kids. I train them a lot like our NFL guys. So if we get the ball and it's minus territory, my snapper, if he's not on the field, he's a tight end. Now he will be on the field. He's playing offensive tackle. But the snapper will be warming up. My punter is going to be warming up in the net the entire time the offense has the ball. He'll have a backup kicker or someone else there. One of my JV guys that's not dressed out. If he has his back turned to us, kind of updating him on, what the down and distance is. So they're just getting dry runs, kicking in the net, just staying loose. Now, once we cross the 50, that punt turns into field goal. And if my holder is on the sideline, he would start holding. The kicker would then switch to extra point field goal, and he would just stay loose and hit a couple into the net every probably one a drive, something, or no, I'm sorry, one per play. So every time we're on the field, if it's a 9-play drive, he's going to hit 9 into the net, whether that's between punt and field goal. That's what he's going to be doing. Now on defense, and he's usually watching the game, but he's out of the way. The biggest thing is for us to be out of the way of defensive coordinators. We definitely don't want to be creeping into the field and have the referee throw a flag on us for something stupid. We don't want to be known until it's time. We don't want to be seen until it's time. So we train our kids to do that at our school. A lot of places don't have that, and it is what it is. You got 11 players on defense, 11 players on offense. You got a coach for safeties, corners. School I'm at, we got 15 coaches for varsity football. I think that's quite a lot. We got
that's nice.
Running back
coaches. Be nice.
You got as many as Alabama, man. What's going on over
here? Yeah, I mean, we've got two running backs coaches, 2 quarterbacks coaches, 2 offensive line coaches, tight ends coach. 2
quarterback coaches.
Yeah. Well, one of them is also the coordinator for the offense, and the other one coordinates our B team players. So our sub JV team. But we got 15 coaches. Maybe most people don't have that many coaches. You might have 7, 8, 9 if you're lucky. You're definitely not going to have one guy dedicated to kickers, punters, and snappers. So it's understandable that you don't have that in a lot of places. We're blessed enough for me to be there with them, and my guys kind of understand the game. And when we're back there doing those drones, JT, it's a good thing that they have a script. One of them's got a script, and he knows this is the formation, this is the call, this is the hash the ball is going to be on, everything. So they're actually learning the play calls as they go. Not that is helpful for a kicker, but it does keep them engaged with the team. A running back might come up. He might have come out after a play and gotten water, come back over and said, "What's the call?" Well, the kicker knows the call. He's got the script with him. So, they learn the game. They stay engaged, and one kicker might spot the ball for an offensive formation period. So we're spotting the ball every 5 yards and moving it, and all we're doing is lining up in formations. Trips left, bunch, right. We could be in dubs, whatever the case may be, and the defense is just lining up to it, and we're just moving the ball. We're doing something to stay engaged with them, whether it's practice or the game. We don't want to be, out to the sideline or another field just doing our own thing.
Okay. So you know what he said to JT when he was talking about kickers, the better ones being multi-sport athletes, or something where you can kind of see that the thing about it with what resonated me with Jacob Carlson is also is that he was a soccer player. That's when we first got him at JP2 and football, but he also played baseball. He's very good at all of those as well. So it really
pretty
fits.
Good safety too.
I know. I wish he would have played some. Well, he was a good offensive guy. He was a good quarterback.
He was a good quarterback. Yeah,
he was a good quarterback. He was just a tremendous athlete. He just, like he said, when you saw him kick the ball, it's just kind of like, oh my God, what happened here? It just sounds different. You know, if you haven't really seen it, it just looks different. I think he had 3 winning field goals or more, at least 2
he
years
had
ago.
at least 2 because the first 2, our first 2 games were both walk-off field goals.
Field goals, yes, and they were long ones too. 40.
Yeah, both over 40.
Both of them were over 40. And this is, I know our hold and snap game wasn't all that great, but he found a way to get it through the net, through the goalpost. Even in windy situation, he's one heck of a punter as well. I think he probably could have went for both. So speaking of the winning kicks, Alan, did you ever have a winning kick, that walk-off cut type of thing? How does that feel, man? What did I had an interception for a touchdown, but
probably about the same. Yeah, I mean, I had an ice kick. It was probably it was in high school actually. 0-0 game, 3 seconds left. Hit it from the right hash. Went in. News station was there. Caught it on the news and all that stuff. So that was pretty cool. But carried me off the field and all that stuff. I mean, 5th game of the year. It wasn't even a division opponent, but high school kids, and we were having a lot of fun. That's a fun environment to be around. It's kind of cool because you do put in a lot of work as a kicker that a lot of people don't see. We lift just like everybody else lifts, but then we got to go do other stuff to make our legs stronger and faster on top of that. And then, to have something like that happen and everybody embrace you is pretty cool. So yeah, it's a fun experience. I can imagine it's a lot like the interception for a touchdown, and just kind of walk off the field and go home. But it's a pretty cool experience.
Well, it's always good to see kickers when they have big ones like that, because they're cussing too. You guys are always cussing. You're talking to the other team like, yeah, mother.
So one time, listen, there's one time I don't remember it. I was punting against our.
You don't remember
Spring Valley High School. I don't. Because listen, I got knocked out.
Oh.
So the guy across from me was Michael Boulware at Spring Valley High School. Brothers Peter Boulware, both of them played in NFL. Michael played for Baltimore Ravens. Bad defensive lineman. He was a safety, wide receiver, defensive end, everything at Spring Valley High School here in South Carolina. He came off the edge. I think we were up by 4 points, less than 3 minutes left in the game. He came and tried to block the punt. I knew he was going to try to block the punt. I got the punt off. I don't remember getting the punt off, but supposedly when I got up, I had a lot of choice words for Michael on my way back to the sideline. I remember waking up on the sideline and kind of coming to. We ended up winning the game, so on and so forth. Long story short, last year I'm coaching my son's 9-10U team, and I'm looking across the field. I'm like, man, that coach looks familiar. And dang if it wasn't Michael Boulware. So I went up to him after the game. I shook his hand. I said, man, you won't remember me. And, oh, no, I remember you. And you were at Ridgeview. And I went to block that punt and so on and so forth. A great guy, great family. It was all in fun. But, yeah, we tend to talk a little bit more than we should in most situations. But at least I did that one non-consciously.
Oh, well, they're really good actors.
Oh, yeah, you gotta be. We train that stuff, man. Refs are terrible. I don't know how they are in Texas, but they're not real good here in South Carolina.
The refs, has anybody ever said the refs are good in any state or any country?
Coach, honestly, I think it's getting. Well, I don't know how it is there, but what we're starting to see here, trend-wise, is the older guys are starting to retire or not want to come back, and they haven't trained any new guys. And you got a lot of guys don't know what they're doing. It's right now. It's probably the worst I've ever seen it. So
it's gonna be all AI. You're gonna have AI refs here pretty soon. Then they're really gonna be complaining because
we've already got film on the sidelines and iPads and everything else. Might as well have somebody huddle focus. You might as well have somebody reffing the game from somewhere else.
Well, I do
I can
think
see it.
that I saw something or reading something about. I guess they're about to do something with first down marks, JT, or something where it's going to be
Yeah, they're gonna get
electronic
rid of
or
the chain
something.
gang,
Yeah, get rid of chain gangs. There, that's next,
Hmm.
I guess. So I
which
guess they're a
honestly,
little
I
laser.
mean, really,
We talked about it. You're going to have
we,
something in the ball, right? Just going to
yeah,
say,
but I'm
is
just
that what
saying
it
the
is?
fact that we're in the 2020s and that we're still measuring things with two sticks is just wild. That's crazy.
It's part
Well,
of
it's
the game,
funny.
Two
man. It just
sticks.
makes
It's basically two sticks and some rope. Like, come on, man.
change, man. Come on, man. I wrote.
Well, in high school, we don't have everybody's got these turf fields now. But you remember when it used to be, Coach Johnson out there painting the field at lunchtime, and the lines looked like
Wasn't
this.
even. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you know what
That's
I'm
right.
talking about. And you're taking the chain gang out there. You're like, there's no way to know if that's first down or not. But now that we actually had Wilson come out to Cole's camp in Wisconsin a couple years back, actually more than a couple years back, and they had chips in the balls, and it was supposed to be used to tell where the ball went out of bounds. So especially for like punts, where did the ball go out of bounds? Where did it go out of bounds if the player was reaching for the ball when it hit the ground, so on and so forth. That was what they were going to use it for. But the biggest issue was quarterbacks and kickers. Would they notice whether the chip was in the ball or not? And they brought out placebo balls, the ones that didn't have anything in them, and then they had the ones with the chips. Thomas Morstead, probably one of our best punters ever with the Jets right now, was with New Orleans at the time. He'd pick up a ball and he'd hit it brand new out of the box, and he'd say, "That one's good." And then they were all numbered and everything. He'd pick up another one and hit it, and he said, "That's got a chip in it." And he could just feel it off. That's how much feeling he had in his foot. He could tell when he punted it whether it had that chip in it. And dang, if he wasn't 100% right. And Wilson did not follow through with the whole. Not saying it was just because of him. I'm sure it had a lot to do with quarterbacks as well. But they could feel that chip inside that was tracking the ball. So I don't know if we'll see it at the NFL level. But
How long ago was that?
I know that. I would say it's about 7 or 8 years ago. We were at Whitewater, Wisconsin, D3 school in
these
Wisconsin.
chips, they're getting smaller and smaller and
Yeah,
smaller.
no doubt. This one was about the size of a quarter, but it was right at the needle insertion point. It was right behind here. But they could just feel it being a little uneven. So who knows?
These smart guys like JT, man, they keep making this stuff. They're writing all these codes and all this stuff and making it happen. So, man, we know we kept you a little long. We could talk about this all day long. I think this has been great, Anthony. I appreciate you giving us a little bit of insight on this, and I love to have you back on in the future, man.
Sure, man.
To talk some special teams, especially once these NFL stuff happens and they're kicking. It's going to be interesting to see what kickers have to do for placement and just the directional kicks, and it's going to be interesting on how teams scheme to defend it. As you said, they're basically going to be running offense down there now, GTs, and they're probably going to be all kind of plays. You're going to be seeing sweeps and throwbacks, and who knows what the hell you're going to see down there in that little zone.
That's right. I appreciate you having me on anytime. I'm here for you, buddy.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. And I've been hitting you up on who my next kicker need to be in fantasy football league next year as well. He won't tell me anymore though, because after I beat
him, listen, you got to help me out a little bit when we're drafting here, man. You end up with these good teams, man. I don't know who's who.
Well, you got to stop picking all the Raiders. You know,
hey, now I will tell you, I got a little. That's true. I did get a little insider information from my NFL guys last year, and I took Puka off of the Rams team. Everybody thought I was crazy, and then everybody wanted him after about week 3. So
it sure did. Did.
Anyway, we'll get there.
Well, again, thank you. Round of applause one more time, JT, for Anthony. Spitting the knowledge to us here on Teague's Take. So yeah, now our whole group chat's gonna be all bitter and jealous, man, because you're on Teague's Take with us, because they're all haters. That not Sean Riley, but that Sean Seglinski. Oh man, I tell you what, he gonna be hating.
Man. What do you expect, man?
That's right. So Maybe we'll come on and let y'all have a debate. You and Coach Sean Riley sometime. Man, that'd be good. So anyway, Jennifer, glad you were in, man. I didn't know your wife was in checking us out too, man. So
I think she's downstairs hanging out.
We should her as well. All right. Well, we're going to be back in a couple weeks. Again, remember, we're going to be talking about the NCAA and that settlement. And what's it mean when we get ready to pay these players soon? $2.8 billion on the line. Just let us get a little of that at Teague's Take by come being a sponsor for us, all right? Subscribe and like. We'll see y'all later.